And I think people were afraid, in tough times to reinvest in their businesses. I think that's something that I was able to do, is compartmentalize it and go, what do I need to go to move forward?
Yeah.
And maybe I was lucky and was a little bit of a risk taker and doing that when on all those uncertain times. But a lot of times when things aren't good is a good time to be doing stuff. And then when things are good is a good time to be collecting, right? Because it's hard to do those other things when you're at capacity or you're doing don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to be different. That's kind of what we try to do, is we don't want to be like every other bowling facility or recreational facility around our area. We just try to do the best we can and give them the good experiences.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming on today, Justin. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So for people who have not had the pleasure of meeting you, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, your center, a little bit about your background.
All right. I'm Justin Studer. We own a 27-lane facility now in Burley, Idaho. It's called Snake River Bowl. We're big into the food side of business as well. Small, definitely small market size center. We're in a town of 13,000 people. And then we probably service about 25 to 30,000 people in a 25-mile radius of our center, kind of our addressable market. We do happen to reach beyond that a little bit just because of some stuff we do. My father opened the business. He got into the business back just about when I was born. He bought a 12-lane center in Rupert, which is a small community next to us. And then in 2000, he went into partners with another bowling facility in a town, and they opened up the bigger center with 27 lanes in 2000. Of course, after that, we had all of our economy issues in 08, 09. I graduated high school in 04, came back to work, went to college for 1 year, decided that really wasn't for me. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how to work QuickBooks and that kind of stuff, so that was good enough for me for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Came back to town and started working for my father. You know how that goes. You're underpaid and you're working your way up through the chain and trying to do things the right way and screwing around a little bit, and then kind of got serious about it. I don't know, probably around 09, 010, and then we did some improvements. We added the restaurant and stuff. We had a Domino's go out of business in town in 2008, like during the whole recession thing.
Yeah.
So we were able to buy like all their pizza equipment for, I think my dad paid $10,000 for it.
Oh, wow. That's a deal.
I remember my dad at that point, he came to me and said, we got to learn how to make pizza. I'm like, all right, why? It's like, because we just bought Domino's, all their equipment. That's a big oven.
It's a lot of pizza.
And luckily we were lucky we had quite a bit of space in the bowling area, in the bowling alley, that we can kind of manipulate and make the kitchen larger to do things like that. So we kind of been fortunate. It was kind of a good decision. I think once my dad had talked to me about it, we decided to move forward with doing that way. And then, the evolution of learning how to make pizzas and stuff. And, when we started, we were like everybody else. I think we had frozen crust and frozen dough balls and, just whatever Cisco would bring us.
Right.
And then after a few years in the business, the pizza was okay. It was good, but it's like, we have all this space and room to grow and capacity because of the ovens we had. And it's got to be more than just a service. And then obviously we're searching hard after 08, 09 to try to find different revenue streams just to stay alive. It's being a small community, 27-lane center with 30,000 people. It's pretty ridiculous.
Right. It's a lot of overhead.
It's a very large facility for what we actually need. Most people, 12-lane center would probably be good enough for situations. And, there's benefits to having the space. But so, us, I think 08, a 20-lane facility, I think we did maybe $300,000 in revenue, which was tough. And I don't even know how we stayed alive. We had just mortgage payments overhead, I think at that point, like $10,000. And it's hard to look back at it and see kind of where we were at. And, it's when I say some stuff that have happened since then, the only reason we're at where we are today is because my father's ability to get through those times. I was an employee, I wasn't making a ton of money at that point, but I was also an employee, right? So I wasn't the one making financial decisions to kind of get us through that crazy time. So luckily it got us to where we got through that. And then business started getting a little better. I bought the business 7 years ago now, I think. I think it was 2016. And it was the point where it was at least paying for itself, and I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to do. And, but a part of me wanting to do them is I wanted the risk to be on me, right? And I think my father, being through 2008, didn't want to see the business kind of change in mode because he's finally to the point where he's making payments. He's actually writing himself a paycheck,
right?
You know, after how many years of dealing with everything. And we're far from the only ones that had to go through that stage in 07, 08. And then the business model changed, you know, and so being in a small community, we just kind of, I took the pizza and we really pushed hard on making everything from scratch and making it good and messing around with recipes and actually learning how to do it the right way. Right. You know, and it's just a different quality when you get stuff that way. You know, premium toppings, obviously you do everything you can in-house, but some stuff it doesn't make sense to do in-house. But, you know, we make our own dough, we do our own sauce, we do.
How difficult was that like transitioning to that? Is there a lot of, what keeps other people from doing that? It's just hard to get into it, or
the infrastructure you need and the space it takes, right? So I've talked to a few other proprietors that, you know, big pizza stuff. And the biggest thing for me is we got to the point where the frozen dough balls, even though the quality were the cost structure of it didn't make sense at that point. You know, so like even back in, you know, 7 years ago, you're getting a good quality frozen dough ball from Rich's or somebody like that, and you're paying $1.50 a dough ball or something. I can make it myself and better for 30 cents or 17 cents. You know, back then it was like 17 cents. Now it's, you know, we're probably closer to 50 or 60 cents, but still it's crazy the amount of savings you get. Plus the quality is a lot better.
Right.
So, you know, it's just like we had to change our model. And so that was kind of how we used that. And then we leveraged everything else. And, you know, we'll discuss kind of how the process of it was, because everything was just a reinvestment into the business for probably until last year. It was the first year we actually were time to maybe show a profit, you know. But so we took the dough and we learned how to make the dough, and then we learned how to make the sauce better. And then, you know, we started shredding our own cheese. We get the block cheese and shred it. So it's super moist and just make a big difference to the quality product.
Yeah.
And just doing everything we can as far as that goes, you know. And so, and then we offered delivery. So we started delivering pizzas. Most bowling centers' umbrella policies are big enough that can kind of slide under the scope of what you do without creating a whole lot of extra expense.
Sure.
So that was kind of a cool thing that we found out.
Interesting.
So it wasn't a big deal for us to offer deliveries. You know, I mean, it was having a person when we started, is having a person available. You know, doing 4 or 5 deliveries a day, maybe, just to have the option. And even those for that first year was probably just me or my running a pizza somewhere in town, right? You know, to now where we have 2 or 3 delivery drivers on Fridays and Saturdays.
Wow.
And, you know, and we're running at least 2 at nights and at least 1 all during the day. And yeah, it's good. Plus, that doesn't mean that we don't have extra people. We'll borrow somebody from the kitchen staff to run a pizza if we need to. But yeah, it's been really good. So that's evolution there. And then obviously as the food sales started going up, we took those, invested in, we started working on the game room and stuff. The game room was actually, we started that a little bit before 06. So we bought my wife said we needed to do it, and I should have listened to her earlier. We bought some old cheap, remember the token games, you know. Have all the crazy mechanisms and shit that I couldn't fix. Pardon my French, but stuff that I could not fix. But it worked. I mean, you could just see the fact they could get prizes and stuff. And then we've kind of snowballed it now, you know, and just keep reinvesting and buying stuff. We're going to do another remodel of our game room this summer, make it as big as we can for the space we have. Move our prize counter and a few things. But, you know, I think now we have about 25 or 30 games. Everything's paid for. They're all nice and new and modern. Operator. And, you know, no operator.
Nice. Yeah, that's the way to go.
And it's been a 7 or 8 year, you know, process to get to that point. And it's just basically you know, for us, everything extra we made just kind of went back in, you know. But yeah, it's been real good. It's been a process. And then a year and a half ago, right before COVID hit, we were planning on doing a VIP room on the low side lane. Obviously, our leagues were actually starting to grow. And I was a little worried because we've always been somewhere where you could almost always get a lane because we had so many lanes, right? But I wanted to be able to address both markets. Like I wanted to keep my league bowlers happy, but I wanted something that is a facility we could use for open play on weekdays and corporate events and stuff. And part of it, when we did the remodel, the biggest driver of it is I wanted a restaurant area, seating area. So we had to remodel so we could shrink down the VIP section so we could put the restaurant behind the VIP lanes. And so that VIP lanes were kind of a bike cursive trying to create more dining room space and event space for the restaurant. And the revenue actually comes more from the VIP side. The restaurant and the bar section do pretty good, do really good. But those VIP lanes have been an incredible piece for us. And it's just perfect timing with everything going on in the world as far as that goes, I think.
Yeah. And how big of an investment is that? Because I've seen a couple of different people do that. And they seem to do really well. How much, is someone looking at to put one of those in?
It depends. It's obviously a little bit more money now. We kind of timed it. Okay. I thought we were expensive when we got it, but if we're going to try to do something like that again, it'd be a lot more.
Yeah.
But I want to say my total investment was about probably, and you got to realize like a lot of it was extra stuff. Like we probably about $500,000 time we were done, but we did a big build out. I mean, it wasn't just put a wall down the lane.
Okay.
We had to remove, because we had drop ceiling in the back. So we wanted to open it all up. So we had to remove all the drop ceiling and then reroute some HVAC and reroute some electricity. And we put a wall down in lane 8. So we lost the lane. Then obviously we went in and we did the DFX lighting and stuff in that room, so you can do the color change lighting and the projector systems. I didn't want to. It always bothered me when we went to these nice huge facilities, but the projector screens were dull because the bulbs weren't changed or they weren't whatever. That drives me nuts. Now they have the media masks. We were looking at those, but when I was doing that 2 years ago, it's like the only spot I could find them was China, and you know what that was like.
You're right.
So it's like, we're not going to do that. So we got basically, they were like 9,000 lumen projectors. They were more expensive laser projectors, but you wouldn't know they're projectors outside of seeing the box hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
They just tried to do everything nice, and so it would just last, and did the new couches, the new seating. And so our other side just has the regular tables and chairs, and the VIPs, the couches, so it gives it a different environment.
Yeah, it's just a theme that you guys do it all the way out, whenever it is. If it's pizza, the VIP room, you guys really do it all the way.
And I think that's important. And I've kind of noticed, and I don't know if it's, when I go visit businesses, it's always, what's the best of the breed that you're going to go? If I'm going to go to, let's say, a restaurant, right? Or even if it's Chili's or Applebee's, like in our area, all the Applebee's are new and updated, and they've actually done some work to the outside of the facility to make them look. A lot of the Chili's and stuff have kind of lagged behind, and so it's like, where am I going to go? It's like, you're going to go to the one that's the nicest and they take care of stuff, and and modern and different. And we just want to be different, and that's us. And, even different in our small community, because we got to stand out. We're not right on the main drag. We're kind of a block off. So like a big thing for us has always been top of mind awareness, and just make people experience it. And the more pictures that they take and put online, and the more positive stuff and things like that, that's kind of how our stuff goes, but then the other good side about doing the splitting it up and doing a VIP in the other is I have 20 lanes that I can dedicate to our league play, which in a small environment, small center place, on weekdays, Monday through Thursday. I mean, if those guys weren't there, it'd be pretty hard to fill those lanes with anything else, and we love our league bowlers and tournament bowlers, and so we can kind of scratch both itches, I guess you can say. And it's been an environment. Some people don't like change, but that's how it always goes. But it's been very rewarding.
Yeah. Now, how do the two play together? I mean, obviously most centers have some kind of a food and beverage offering, but not to the degree that you guys have, like the full pizza. I mean, is it something where you get more food and beverage because it's a higher quality, or what does that look like for the crossbreed between the two? Because it sounds like your food offering could almost stand alone on itself, versus the two just kind of being.
It could. So our food and beverage is 56% of our revenue, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I was looking at them, but it's pretty amazing from where we came from. I think I look back when I bought the center in 2016, we were at total revenue, just right around, under 500,000, which I think is pretty normal for a 20 lanes facility in a smaller town, and it was profitable. We had, I think at that point we had 13 employees, and and only 4 of them were full-time, and 2 of them are me and my dad. And, it was like, so you were stretched thin. And the problem with that is we were always stuck in the business. We could never look at it from like a different level and a view, and doing projects like I have going on. Like I've been on the phone for 2 hours, say, talking to contractors and trying to get different things lined up. And, I'm in a town 40 miles away picking up stuff from food service, talking to you in the parking lot of Costco. And, it's like, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, I can't do all the higher levels. Not that running the Costco's high level stuff, but I'm not stuck in the four walls of the business trying to make it operate.
Yeah.
And that's made the biggest difference for me, is because I can push buttons and I can see the reward from it without having to get stuck behind it. Now, last year was a nightmare for everybody. Basically, our business doubled after we did the remodel.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it was, when you're going up 80, 90, 100%
right
over a month, and then we had hiring problems. And it's not so, I just couldn't find the right people to fill. I could find bodies, but they were never the right people. I could just let them go and run it and not feel like I need to be there. Especially when your first year, you're opening up, you want everything to go certain ways. Like, this is how my own corporate parties to go and everything else. So, last year it was 80, 90 hours a week, still inside the four walls. But I think that's just more getting it off the ground and getting the right people in place.
Yeah, training them.
Exactly. 3 years ago, I had 0 managers, and it was just myself. And my wife teaches school, so she's never really in the business on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So it's just myself, and I did all the book work, and I did the league books, and I did, just the common small center thing.
Yeah.
And looking at it today, and then my dad did most of the mechanic work, plus, we were taking up a few shifts behind the front counters and everything else. And which, now I finally have someone in place. My dad's training to he does our mechanic work, plus he does a little bit of pro shop work for us.
Yeah.
And then I have Ryan, who's a general manager for us. And then I have Rhiannon, who does all of our party works and party scheduling and a lot of this work scheduling and day-to-day stuff, like managing people and things that I don't have to do anymore, which has been tremendous. So so luckily everything kind of worked out.
What do you think the key was to getting, because I mean, I talk to proprietors every day, and a lot of them seem to be in that position you were originally, where they're stuck in the business. What do you think the key was to kind of getting your head above the clouds, or being able to see, to back out of that a little bit?
For me, it was once you find somebody that doesn't suck, and they do. I mean, I think last year, so like I said, when I picked it up, we had maybe 13 employees, and I have 43 employees.
Wow.
And I think 16 of them are full-time.
Wow.
But like when they come on, if they're good, like you just got to pay them. I mean, it sucks, but I look at the quality, and we're in a state where minimum wage is still $7.20, but you're not paying that, right? So even a high school kid, I might be able to get a part-time high school kid for $9 an hour or whatever, but I'm paying them. Hopefully they're like bowling, and half the reason they're working for us is because they want to go bowl and do that stuff, and they just like being in the environment. And then, but if any of my full-time help and stuff, if they're worth something, they're making something where they can afford to live. That's a one job. I think that's the biggest thing. You got to if you find the good people, you got to make it so they're comfortable working one job. So if you're scheduling them for 40 hours a week, if for some reason somebody else does not show up for a shift, it's not the end of the world if they stay 2 more hours. We try to avoid that all we can.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to fry them out and burn them out.
Yeah.
Burn out just because we didn't have the right people yet. It was just the fact of weeding through people to find the right people that, like your process and like your family that you're in and like the environment. And, bowlers are a different breed. League bowlers are. And learn how to deal with them the right way and, and can have those conversations. But once you find those and you get those in place, you give them something that it's worth sticking around for, where they're not looking for other jobs. And finding and developing career positions for people is what we've discussed. It's made a big difference, because if it's a career for somebody, and I probably have 3 positions, what I would call it's career money, where they're making something that if they had a 4-year college degree, that they would probably be starting out less than what they're making. If you're a teacher or something like that, that's a good example, but that's where they're at, so where it's comparable more than what they would make, but obviously we don't have quite the benefit package, but we do offer retirement, a few things like that. We've tried to get proactive on those things. To try to make people stick. And then, our management staff most of our main people have been over there over a year now since we've done the remodel, and all of my management has stuck around. That part's been really good. So we've been lucky to do stuff right that way. It costs a little bit more money. But, if you see someone working full time and they're good at what they do, they're well worth the price difference between what you would be paying someone that you're trading constantly or can't make a decision on their own.
Yeah.
That's the thing I found is if somebody can come in to your establishment and work for you and they're not afraid to make a decision, that's always a good start. You know, they don't need to ask for everything. They might not always be right. But when you give them that leeway, you kind of have to let them be wrong sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
I have your back, you know, but this is how I would have done it, but you have the you have the realm to make a decision.
Yeah. Right. Kind of empowering them to make that.
Yeah, you have to, because they need to feel like the business is as much theirs as it is yours, even though they might not see the net number at the end of the year.
Right.
But the fact that, if they have a really good year, they might say, oh, I have a bonus coming, or I have this or, just the fact that when they're not there, maybe it's not when they're clocked out. It's not necessarily a bad thing if they think about the business every now and then to make sure everything's going on.
Get that buy-in.
What's going on in the business when you're not there, right? So it's been good.
Yeah, no, in the beginning, you mentioned how you reinvested a lot into the center, games and the remodeling. So it sounds like the next logical step was to reinvest in the people, pay a little more, get the higher quality caliber people.
It comes to a point where when you're growing and you're doing things, you got to reinvest in things, right? So for me, everything extra, because I know, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I've never worried about the net number at the end of the year. I've always been the guy that's, how do we keep growing the gross? Because the higher that gross number is, it just increases your baseline. So the next time we do have a recession or something goes awry or whatever, the higher that gross number is, the higher that baseline is. And so easy, you already get through it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of always been the key for me, is grow the gross first and then worry about the net later, and as long as you're paying your bills and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of what it's been. And and it's like I said, this last year, we kind of flipped the switch where we're kind of got all the big giant projects out of the way. And, then you could finally see the rewards on the net side. But it's been fantastic.
Yeah. It reminds me of Bezos and Amazon. That was his goal, just reinvest for 20 years. And then one day you turn on the spigot and you're printing money. You're one of the most highly valued companies in the world.
Yeah. I don't know. Businesses that are stagnant don't constantly change. And it's not that I'm going to stop reinvesting. Luckily, sooner or later, the growth outpaces your reinvestment into your facility.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you keep doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. As long as you're reinvesting in smart things.
We're finally into that point where it's, we still kind of have, because it's like anybody else, when you start doing these remodel projects, my budget's this. By the time you're done, we don't need all those decorations on the wall, and we don't need all, so now it's like I'm going back around and, it's okay. We got to put something on the wall that makes it look good.
Yeah.
Because it's just a big gray wall right now. It looks great, but it needs to be better than what it is. And a few things like that, just kind of finishing touches that, like when you do a project, you're like, oh, we're going to trim back this part of the budget and this part of the budget, because it never goes as planned.
And I found that people respond better if you can drip out some of the changes, especially the visible changes. Do it all in one lump, and then they don't see anything done for a long time. They feel like you're not reinvesting. But even if it's something small like those decorations, your customers see those changes. They're like, wow, they're putting money back into it.
Yep, there's something. They're making changes. They just
but they
come in. If they come in a year later, you don't want it to look the same as it was last time they were there. It might be as little as putting paint on the wall.
Yeah.
Or something like that,
it's furniture, right?
It's just something, it's just making changes and doing little things and just trying to keep everything fresh and exciting, and don't let it get stagnant.
Yeah. So speaking of which, what are some of the things that are working really well for you guys today, as far as, the business growing things, getting people in, what are some things that are working well for you?
The weather's been really great for us, because it's completely sucked. We've had so much freaking weather this year. The spring is just keep going on forever. We don't have spring yet. We just had 2 inches of ground and snow on the ground this morning.
Right.
We're supposed to be golfing. So that part's been good. But for us, it's just top of mind awareness. So anywhere they can see. And it's funny because it's, BPAA stuff. Like, I'm part of doing a lot of stuff for BPAA now. And they use that keyword too, because they're just pushing bowling in general. Top of mind awareness for me is just remember that Snake River Bowl and Pooter's Pizza exists in the community. So it's just little things that we can do throughout. I know we took another big leg up when COVID hit and they closed us down for a couple months, it was before we got the remodel done, but we were in the process of doing it. Then COVID hit and kind of froze everything. So we stopped doing it. And then luckily interest rates plummeted. And so we're like, oh, we should definitely do it now. But anyway, so we went through, and when COVID hit, we were like, we saw different businesses reaching out to first responders and doing those things. And it's, we should definitely do something because they're doing so much for communities in times of needs and stuff. And we also wanted to, knowing that everybody was stuck at home, was like, we have to, our delivery side of the business is obviously what we're going to rely on is delivery and carry out, right? Because they can come in and get pizza, but they can't bowl, they can't play video games. You know what I mean? So it's really, our huge facility is stuck behind this one little wall. So I think that first month after COVID, and there's some videos on YouTube, but we went through, I think we gave out 600 pizzas over 3 months or 700 pizzas, the different things. So we were doing like, for every 10 pizzas we sold, we'd donate one. But the first thing, we went to like retirement homes and Walmart and any of those places and just said, how many people have work? And we fed everybody there. And so those were the only people who were still out working, right?
Right.
I didn't even really think about it, but all those people were like, we never thought about the bowling alley pizza outside of bowling. Right.
Yeah.
And so that kind of snowballed, and you know, we've kind of tried to keep that as a value and stuff we do when we can give back. Yeah, we do it, and obviously not as much. We're not doing 600 pizzas in 2 months, but you know, if we see something happen or some good news happens online or something, or we'll take over some pizzas probably once a year or something.
That's a great idea. Yeah, because I mean, it's
top of mind awareness. It's, you know,
and it's not expensive for a pizza, you know, for your cost, especially if you're making it.
Yeah, and it makes our employees it makes your employees feel good about doing something, right?
Right. Yeah, bigger vision.
During COVID, everybody was so down and distraught. You're not seeing anybody all day. You're back there making because the computer tells you to.
Right.
And you're walking them out to a car. You're not even touching them. You're sitting them on their hood of their car.
Right.
You know, and you're walking back in, and you're like, "What the hell is this? Life sucks." Right. And so, for them to get a little bit of that interaction, even though you might be in a face mask and have sunglasses on, and you're wearing rubber gloves, and you're dropping it off in the lobby of the hospital, at least you saw somebody come out and pick it up and wave at you, or you know, they'd give shout outs because all the hospitals and stuff were big on, they're not so much right now, but they were active on social media because it was a way they could outreach to people and tell them what was going on. And so, you know, we got a lot of stuff as far as that goes as well.
It's really cool. Yeah. And so get your name out there, you know, in a good light.
You know, and that wasn't the purpose of it. But it was just kind of a good bystander from it. Honestly, a lot of it was, I want to get the word out, but it was like, we have to do something, right?
Right.
The only people that are working, everybody else is living off the government's dime.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to keep people, the ones that want to work, still working, you know. It worked out. It turned out, you know, looking back, you know, I think a lot of people can say it is, COVID is probably the best thing that ever happened to the bowling business, which is not good to say. You know, it's a disease, and, you know, it's always somewhere in the middle when, depending on what side of debate you're on. But, you know, we've lost family members to it, just like everybody else did when it first came out.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a real thing, but it's, you know, looking back at it and stuff, it's, you just kind of roll with the punches and make the best of whatever situation you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a survivorship bias too. So, you know, the businesses that didn't last through the tough times, they go under, and those people still need to eat, you know, it's more people to less businesses.
Yep. Correct.
One thing I wanted to cover, we talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to cover it, is the passing of the generations. So, you know, you purchased the business from your dad, and it sounds like you did it, you know, a little bit differently than what some other people do. I was wondering if you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I know some people, I wanted free reign, and it was kind of important for me. And my dad's always been good. Like, even before that, I was getting a little bit of ownership of the business, even though when it came time to buy it, I basically bought the whole business anyway. So it was just a piece of paper that made me feel good about working there. Yeah. Which is no spite on anybody. It's just the reality of what it was.
Right.
But I wanted to be able to make decisions I wanted to make. And luckily we had made a few other decisions that had made it with me and my wife, where the bank would take the loans that were in his name and assign them to me. So I don't know if that's 100%, you know, all of it. And then the rest, after taking over the loans, then obviously whatever the assessment on the business was, I purchased from my father. And it was more like, how do you keep making money? You know, obviously for a while, because I think he was 50 at the time or 52 at the time. And he was just kind of burnt out. A lot of people are, and not wanting to, you know, getting grumpy and other things, which you can't do in our business, unfortunately. Right. Sometimes you want to be. And so him carrying the loan, he'll have invested interest. So if something goes wrong, you can take it back over.
Yeah.
But then he can get interest from that. So he's not paying all that big capital punishment.
Yeah.
Up front, paying that big tax bill.
I like that term.
You know, so it's like whatever the amount was, you know, he gets paid a percentage, like interest that he can put in his pocket.
Right.
As well. So it makes that number, even though maybe it's a little smaller on the top line, if you look at what you would have paid the government, and then but instead you're paying him interest, and then you put like on it when we were doing it, and I told him, I'm glad I did it, but I was like, you need to make sure there's wording in there that I can't pay you off before 15 years, you know, or something, because you have to get those interest payments to make it make sense, right? When we're using it for retirement. So there's a few little caveats in there like that, but so he's getting payments, you know, and he gets to carry the loan and getting those percentages, but I have 100% control of the business. And, you know, and some people probably have problems letting go and kind of letting their sons run with it. I'd like to say, you know, maybe he saw something in the time I'd spent with him over the last 15 years before that working there, but he's probably just tired of dealing with people. I think if you look at him, he probably thinks it's worked out better, you know, for the best.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's obviously worked out really well for us just because of what we've been able to do with it and multiplying, you know, everything's gross numbers, you know, when I speak, but taking our baseline and moving it up, you know, 4X, 5X in 7 years has been.
Yeah. You said you've never had a down month, I think, or something like that, like month over
month.
month.
Had one down month.
1 month.
Since we've opened. And
that's incredible.
Actually 2, sorry. So there's one, and then obviously the first month that COVID hit, but we were the second month and our sales were up because it was May. And so it's our slowest month in the facility, but we sold so much freaking pizza that it more than offset all the rest of that stuff. And then once we opened, it was just gangbusters. And so that even that year where we were closed I think we were closed for 7 weeks. I think is what our actual timeline was for the bowling and the games. And then we were open, we could only do 50%, you know, so we're using every other lane like everybody was. The arcade we couldn't even open the arcade till about September. We still did more gross revenue that year than we did the year before.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that was pretty tremendous. And then the following year we did the remodel, obviously, and then that times that by 2, and we're up another 30% last year, and we're keep moving the right direction. So
yeah, you guys do some crazy numbers for the size of your area.
Yeah, and I mean, we're blessed, you know, and a lot of it's just basically we have another business inside of our walls, you know, or it's a restaurant. Like when you're doing more than half your revenue, food and beverage, you know, but even saying that, if it was on its own, it wouldn't be doing the same numbers it's doing now.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's
because bowling is a huge part of it. It's a draw. It makes people come in and sit down and eat and stuff, you know, and there, but we're about 90, like as far as open play, we're over 90% conversion where they buy pizza, which is incredible. Yeah, which is crazy, but that's how it is. I mean,
but that feeds you a normal pizza shop.
They eat dinner.
Yeah, I mean, a normal pizza shop wouldn't have all those customers being fed through the bowling side. Really work hand in hand. Yeah,
so it's like anything else, right? So that's like when people put in different attractions. So I like to say we have bowling as an attraction, we have an arcade as an attraction, we have pizza as an attraction.
Yeah.
Right. Some people have bowling, laser tag, and you know, these other things, and we don't have the space to do a laser tag, or we don't have the space to do miniature golf or go-karts. I would love to. We don't have the space for it. We're kind of landlocked where we're at. So inside of our 4 walls, you know, what's things that can make the biggest impact with the square footage? That was we have a big kitchen because we got this big old oven from Domino's. And so how do we make that tick and, you know, go from there? And I'll be honest, there's times we don't, even with that double-decker oven on Saturdays and stuff, we can't keep up.
Wow.
We can, which is great, you know, but it's, you know, when they call for carry out or delivery, and it's going to be an hour and a half. And we're starting having growing pains that way too, because you don't ever want to tell somebody it's going to be that long, because somebody has a bad experience, even if they're just carrying out a pizza or calling it in. Just like they come into bowl, you know, if your machines are operating right, if your pizza's not operating in a timely manner, who knows if you're ever going to get them back. So,
right.
yeah, we have different, it's always a pain. It was a pain that not enough business. Now it's a pain. We're trying to do everything we can, right?
Right.
But
yeah, you got to look for
good.
the next Domino's to go out of business and scoop up that oven.
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever see that again. They're paying too. I think they're doing just fine now.
Well. Yeah, they've really turned it around.
Very well. They figured out that, sometimes you just don't want the cheapest thing on market. You need quality to go with it.
Yeah.
That was their big thing when they did the rebranding, is they actually fix the quality of their food.
Right.
Still not
and then
great,
the online ordering, they did well too.
Compared to other stuff, I think they've done a good job.
Yeah. So I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. I like to finish with a little bit about where you see things going for like the next 12 months or so. So where you see, not just your center, but maybe the industry in general, where do you see things going for bowling?
Being part of the BPAA board, you see so many different perspectives. And I think that's the best thing about being active in those type of things, is with people that are they're either, a lot of them are probably more successful than I am. Yeah. They're successful in their businesses, and just surrounding yourself with peers and hearing other stories about what you have going on. And you just get so many ideas. But I think everybody that I've talked to kind of has the same concern, is how do we keep going, right? How do we keep growing? Or how do we even, you hate to say, how do we keep what we have? Because our business has definitely changed over the last year and a half. Ours has changed in other ways too, but I think everybody's business, as far as people want to get out and socialize and being part of a family and doing things together. I mean, that's something, an experiential thing is what we have. And I think the biggest thing is to keep our top of mind going and keep them doing things the right way and offering a product that keeps people out and moving and interested and doing things together in a spot where they can come in and bond and recreate and do things. Mm-hmm. We're lucky. We're in an industry that is, it's more expensive than it used to be. And it should be. If it's not, you're not charging enough money. Yeah. The fact that it's close to home and it's not something you travel to go and do, your customers are within a radius of your center. They're not traveling to you. Some do, but most of them are in a radius of your center. And so the first thing that goes when the market gets tight is they start cutting travel, which is away from your facility, right? And they start cutting those other things. And so you become a place of now, when they come in, they might be like, oh, I'm going to bowl and I'm going to eat, but I might not go play games, or I might not go do some of those other things. Yeah. So you have to be effective. And then that's where I think packaging comes into play. But it's just always keeping an eye. I see it as far as we go in our community, we keep growing. We're a big agriculture community for us, and people are always going to need to eat. So the next 12 months look really good. Yeah. But it can turn on a dime, right? They could end the war in Russia, and then all the food commodity prices go crashing down because all of a sudden there's all this grain on the market. There's a million things that can do, that can change everything that's going on for us, just like anybody else's communities. But I think all you can do is be prepared for that when it does come, because sooner or later it will come. Something will happen. Yeah. And then until then, you keep pushing and try to do the best you can and hopefully add money to some coffers. So when it comes around, you're ready to go. But I think we're in about the best business there is right now to be in. I really do. Yeah, it's hard to keep going. When a lot of people are having record years, it's like you said, how do we keep it going? How do we take the last year kind of thing? How do we keep going? How do I do this? What expansions are necessary? And I think people were afraid, in tough times to reinvest in their businesses. I think that's something that I was able to do, is compartmentalize it and go, what do I need to go to move forward? Yeah. So, and maybe I was lucky and was a little bit of a risk taker and doing that when on all those uncertain times. But a lot of times when things aren't good is a good time to be doing stuff. And then when things are good is a good time to be collecting, right? Because it's hard to do those other things when you're at capacity or you're doing, don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to be different, and that's kind of what we try to do. Is we don't want to be like every other bowling facility or recreational facility around our area, but we just try to do the best we can and give them the good experiences, and hopefully they stick around and do what they're supposed to do. Yeah, it seems like your differentiator is, quality. You guys, you stand out by just going to the next level on each thing that you guys do. Yeah, we try to have different experience. I know when people come in, they're like, how do you have so many employees walking around? But I hate seeing lines. I hate seeing people wait. and employees that are stretched thin are unhappy employees.
Right.
And so if I need a high school kid to just run food out or wipe out, you know what I mean? We'll do it. We're going to plug them in.
Yeah.
So can't be afraid, I mean, there's times when you got to tighten your belts, but we're at a time right now where it's like, just the quicker and the more service I can offer and the better service I can offer equals the more dollars. And there might be a time when it switches again where it's, I think I remember my dad came back. I remember this. It was probably 08 or something. The easiest way to save money is to cut labor expenses. And that kind of, back then it was like, okay, so we're going to stretch everybody even thinner. And, and I think I kind of look at it and go, the easiest way to make money is to make your life and make everybody else's life simple. And so if it's somebody to do something, somebody to do, and there's certain positions in the building that don't require, super skilled people. So taking advantage of different things you can do there, if it's through the labor and having a person with a disability run your prize counter, have an autistic kid that loves all the little trinkets and toys and can sit there and talk to the kids how cool the color of the bouncy ball is and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. That's a great job for them. Right. And so anything that we can benefit that way, as well. And plus it helps our community, so there's just a million things you can do. And you just got to think outside the box and don't be afraid to do it. And, and if you're a little overstaffed and somebody calls in sick, guess what? You'll survive.
Right.
You're not constantly calling somebody to go, hey, I need coverage for this, or, or if you have some single mothers that work for you, and which I have a few of those, and kids get sick and that kind of stuff happens. And you have to have the flexibility. You just have to.
You just let it go. So
having a scheduled in flexibility is not necessarily a bad thing because you're not the one in there covering it every single night.
Right. Yeah. And then you end up keeping those employees longer because they don't burn out. They
don't burn out. And they can, if they need time off, you can give them time off or,
Yeah. Because retention's turnover is very expensive. There's not like a line item in your P&L, but retraining those people and getting new people up to speed is super expensive. So anything you can do to keep your current people is super profitable.
Exactly. And that's why I don't know, maybe you noticed the BPAA, this is a BPAA shout out, but through their online courses and classes. So if you're listening, if your people take it, BPAA will pay your people $10 a class they finish. They'll pay you. Yeah. So right now, if you have people that are working for you and they're taking those classes, you get $10 per class they finish back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if they go in there and say you have 5 people and they take 4 classes each, that's $200 that you get that you can either use, if you want to, I would hope you would give it back to your employees, rewarding them to do testing, but you can do different employee stuff. I mean, it just goes back to you to do whatever you want with it. It's something that when our last meetings, they kind of came up with in the education committee level. And we're like, how do we get people, their stuff back and try to get them to use education and what's good for their businesses. And that's what they did. So that's a cool thing. You do have to call in. If you call in and talk to Bart or Kelly, they'll sign you up. But yeah, you can get on, and those education courses are online that most states already pay for. So there's no cost to you.
Right.
It's $10 per class that your people take. That'll go back to you. So that's kind of
super cool. Yeah, you could do like a party or something like that after they hit a certain amount.
Yeah, after they take 20 courses, go feed them a steak. I don't know. I mean, there's 100 things you can do with it, and you can use it how to do it. But it's good. I mean, we're finally, I expect at some point summer will show up and we'll start to slow down a little bit. So I have some plans in the works so that some of those hours that they maybe be cut back, that they can do a little bit of education stuff.
Right.
On the employees that I want to stick around and want to develop. Right.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, it might not be an option for them.
Right. Yeah. So that's something we do too with our company. Is I tell them you can spend 10% of your time learning and getting better because it's just going to pay back, over time.
And this time it will actually pay back.
Right. Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
$10 per class. And some of those classes take 20 minutes.
Right. So people just call Bart or Kelly for that, or how do people get access to that?
To BPAA, and then they'll have to do a thing, and then they'll send you a link, and basically it'll track everything you'll have, and
cool.
It makes it, once you get set up, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Just the process of it, but it's a 5-minute phone call, and yeah.
But that's an awesome program.
It's kind of a cool thing that BPAA National's done. So
yeah, very cool. Awesome, Justin. Well, I know you're a busy guy. You got, I'm sure, plenty other things to do. This has been really fun. I've enjoyed it. We could talk, all day long, I'm sure. But thanks again for coming on. This has been fun.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.